The show begins with a young man fighting hooded assassins with a sword. He gets shot at from multiple directions but manages to cut through all the bullets and kill the assassins. One of them, a strange, bandaged man, puts up a good fight against him but is forced to flee. The man consults his senior, who reveals that the assassins had killed their target, Lord Elsnitz. The boy introduces his world, cities inside glass candles of a lantern connected through tubes and railways. He takes a train to Flandor, mankind's last standing city-state. Outside in the darkness, lurk monsters called lycanthropes. The boy gets off the train with a pink-haired girl and helps her get down. The two get along well before parting ways. The boy, named Kufa Vampire, walks to a mansion where he is welcomed by some maids. They show him the mansion where he'll be working for the next 3 years when Kufa notices a young girl standing on the rails of the balcony. She gets embarrassed and loses her balance and Kufa rushes to catch her. She stares at him, shocked by the whole situation before asking if he's her instructor. Kufa nods and the girl introduces herself as Melida Angel. He reveals that he'll be following her everywhere as the instructor. Kufa watches Melida spar at her academy. She introduces him to her friends, who ridicule her for getting an instructor to learn how to use mana. Mana is a magical energy that allows a human to surpass their limits. It is a trait only found in noble families, and most children awaken it by 7. However, Melida, despite belonging to the Paladin class holder Angel family, has been unable to awaken her mana, leaving her behind her peers. Melida, nicknamed the incompetent talented girl, gets defeated by her friend. She tells her that her cousin Elise has already awakened her mana and is getting an elite tutor. Melida runs away, disappointed, and Elise tries to go after her. She calls out after her but gets shut away. Later at night, Kufa writes in his notes, Melida's grandfather Mordru doubts that Melida is a true heir to the Angel family. There are doubts that Melida is the illegitimate daughter of Lord Elsnitz and not the real daughter of Duke Felgus. Having confirmed this, Kufa decides to carry out his mission to assassinate Melida. He cannot stand watching a misguided Melida pour all her heart into training for something she will never obtain and move out. Melida isn't in her room, however, and Kufa goes out into the city to find her. He finds Melida and watches her fight some lycanthropes. The girl gets beaten up but never calls for help. Kufa realizes that Melida, who has always been alone, does not want to give up and admit her weakness. He goes out and easily kills the monsters, wishing to see the hardworking girl's efforts bear fruit. Kufa offers his full support to Melida, making her emotional. He kneels on one knee and offers her a risky method to awaken her mana. Melida agrees, entrusting her life to him, and Kufa drinks a drug and kisses her. She falls into a world of darkness but later wakes up, happily showing her maids her awakened mana. Kufa watches her, determined to hide her mother's affair as well as Melida's real identity from her grandfather. Kufa checks an embarrassed Melida's body for any abnormalities after the drug but is relieved to find her safe. Melida gets excited, asking if she can be his pupil, and Kufa nods. He warns her to refrain from using mana before an upcoming school tournament. However, later at school, Melida's friend Nerva bullies her once again and takes a book from her. Walking out of her class, Kufa and Melida meet Elise and a familiar girl from the train. She introduces herself as Roasty Prickett, Elise's tutor. She cheerfully disregards her achievements and acts casual, using the name Rose for herself. Rose tries to shake Kufa's hand but he refuses to her shock. He claims that he cannot be friends with such an impolite woman as a tutor and she gets upset, wondering where his gentlemanliness had gone. Rose leaves after taunting Kufa to defeat his pupil and he returns home with Melida. On the tournament day, Melida feels terribly nervous despite Kufa's encouragement. Her friend Nerva starts mocking her again before Kufa tells her to shut up. Nerva gets mad at Kufa as well, which upsets Melida, who stands up to her. Nerva leaves after promising to defeat her in the tournament. At the tournament venue, both Felgus and Mordru are present. Kufa is a bit nervous but trusts his pupil. The fight begins and Melida charges into battle. She rushes at Nerva to attack, who laughs confidently. To everyone's surprise, though, Melida uses her mana to fight her evenly. She briefly gets the upper hand, but Nerva launches a powerful attack, Garrick Hammer, and forces her into a corner. Melida runs away as Nerva laughs and mocks her for daring to stand up against her, frustrated that the once pitiful Melida is now on even footing with her. She tries to unleash another Garrick Hammer, but Melida counters with a wind blade, defeating her and surprising even Kufa. The rest of Melida's teammates help her fight and she rushes to the opponent's base and wins the match for them. After the match, Melida talks to her father, who tells her to not get complacent after one win. Kufa cheers her up, saying at least her improvement got her a response. A flushed Nerva comes up to Melida and returns her book before Melida remembers her next match is against Elise's team. Elise effortlessly finishes her team off in 13 seconds, winning decisively. One day, an excited Melida talks to Kufa about Circlet Night, an upcoming 2-day festival. She asks if he likes festivals, to which he says that he simply doesn't know about them. Kufa then notices a dress she is holding and asks her about it. She reveals that it is a dress passed on by school seniors and all girls wear matching dresses at the festival. Melida then nervously asks Kuffa if he'll be her dance, for which he says that he'll be available on the second day. The scene shifts to Elise's mansion where her overbearing maid, Mrs. Othello, is dissatisfied that she didn't thoroughly beat Melida up and prove her superiority. One of Elise's maids brings her festival dress for her, which excites the young girl. But Othello thinks that it's too simple and orders for it to be trashed. Later at the festival, all the girls meet up in matching dresses but notice Elise wearing a fine dress made of firebird feathers. She gets embarrassed by all the comments on her dress and runs away. Melida notices this and follows her, noticing Elise crying that she wants to wear the same dress as the others. As Melida rushes to comfort her, a group of strange men surround them and take them hostage. Melida wakes up in a museum. She notices she can't use her mana and sees a bandaged man. He introduces himself as a surgically created half-lycanthrope before telling Melida that her display of the samurai class alerted everyone, claiming to be from the guild Grimface. He has Elise dragged out and tells Melida that he will use her to mutate her class to paladin. Elise wakes up, terrified of the lycanthropes surrounding her. Melida remembers always protecting Elise and breaks off a skeleton, causing a distraction. She runs away with Elise and finds some normal weapons. With quick thinking, she uses the feathers from Elise's magical dress and creates a divine torch to scare the lycanthropes away. The girls run away but finally get cornered. The bandaged man watches them struggle and notices a fierce glint in their eyes. He orders for the girls to be killed, saying the procedure would have killed them anyway. As he reaches out for Melida's face, a nearby door bursts open, revealing Kuffa and Rose. With synergy, Rose and Kuffa defeat the lycanthropes before Kuffa gives chase to the bandaged man. He ends up defeating the man after a fight, but the man reveals his trump card, unleashing a beast called Haunted Chimera. The altered beast, designed to be far stronger than humans, breaks off Kuffa's arm. A man asks Kuffa if Melida really is worth losing his future, and Kuffa nods, confident. The beast suddenly attacks Kuffa and the man starts leaving after the job is done. He is shocked, however, when Kuffa breaks out of the chimera, killing it. Kuffa reveals that he is going beyond his limits, turning into the strongest lycanthrope, a vampire. He reattaches his arm and approaches the terrified man, telling the man to cover up Melina's story as really being a paladin. He dismisses him before leaving. Back at Kuffa's guild, the guildmaster asks a member, Black Madia, to investigate his suspicious relationship with Melida. Later at the festival, Kuffa offers to dance with Melida. She thanks him for everything he does for her before saying she will one day become a lady worthy of him. Kuffa reassures her that she will reach great heights one day and dances with his proud pupil. One night, Elise is dreaming about a childhood memory. The scared girl got saved from a lycanthrope by Melida. Her elder sister encouraged her to shape up as she could already use mana, but little Elise wanted to stay the little sister forever. She wakes up from the dream, gloomy. The next night, Elise walks happily with Melida, excited to spend the next week with her. Their tutors follow closely, whereas Kuffa disapproves of Rose's closeness. She notes that Mrs. Othello had forced her way into the event and resigned herself to some fun. In a crystal hall, students from St. Friedesweit excitedly discuss the event and last year's winner, the title holder Luna called Shenfa Swidok. Melida asks to join Elise's team, but as she is about to answer, the headmistress begins speaking. They're introduced to the Luna Lumiere Selection Tournament, a competition held between St. Friedesweit and St. Dottrich schools. For 1 week, students will be observed and talented students will be chosen as cadets for the competition. After the announcement, girls from St. Dottrich, led by girls called Kara and Salacha, enter the hall. The headmistress reveals the 2 cadets from St. Friedesweit, surprised that it's Melia and Elise. She explains the rules of the Battle Royale competition, where each cadet will lead a team of 3. Shenfa and Nerva offer to become Melida's teammates and the teams are set. After the announcement, students move out, upset that the incompetent talented girl was selected as a cadet. Kuffa reassures Melida that he believes in her, giving her confidence. Later, he trains Melida and her teammates, helping her train in unsheathing art. While taking a break from her training, Melida gets approached by a mysterious black-haired girl who cheers her on and tells her to prove her worth as the heir to the Angel family. The girl leaves as Kuffa approaches Melida and takes her to Mrs. Othello. Both Elise and Melida are present as Kuffa makes Othello confess that she changed the 2 cadet names in order to have Elise dominate Melida in front of everyone. Melida declares that she will prove herself by defeating Elise, and Elise seems surprised. Later, while walking through a forest, Kuffa is approached by Black Madia and Elise visits Melida at her dorm. Black Madia questions Kuffa why Melida's mana only awakened after he started teaching her, and he denies possible connections, beginning a fight with her. In Melida's room, Elise says that she'll pretend to lose to shut Othello up, and Melida is upset at the thought of winning without her own ability. At the forest, Rose arrives to help Kuffa and notices Black Madia's fighting style. Kufa tells her that Black Media is the strongest clown class, able to imitate all classes except the 3 highest classes. Black Media leaves as reinforcements arrive, but not before leaving a warning. In Melida's room, Elise bluntly tells Melida that she is too weak and that is why she has to lose on purpose. She leaves, leaving Melida tearful and hurt. In a dark corner of the Crystal Palace, a mysterious girl laughs while operating a device. Inside, Kufa and Rose try to convince the headmistress to stop the tournament due to Black Media's threat. She remains unconvinced. However, later at a school dinner, Melida quietly sits away from Elise. Rose notices that Elise is upset and tries to talk to her, but Othello claims she is now getting her deserved distance from the incompetent Melida. Nerva and Shenfa sit down with Melida to cheer her up. Later, Kufa asks Melida in her room about Elise. She tells her that Elise used to be very dependent on her during childhood and that perhaps that has resulted in her poor self-esteem for her. Kufa tells her that Elise should have fully communicated what she wanted with her, and by not telling her the full story, she wants Melida to figure it out on her own, thus being emotionally dependent on her. He tells her that a relationship between 2 people who like each other like themselves doesn't crumble so easily, making her blush. On the day of the tournament, Melida goes in with her team and they encounter Elise's teammates. She goes ahead to fight Elise herself. Outside on a railing, Kufa corners the mysterious black-haired girl. He tells her to give up and hand over whatever she has collected, but the girl refuses. He tries to attack her and the girl counters. Kufa notes her powerful ability and the girl reveals she is Mule Amour, having the Diabolos class of the 3 big families. At this, Kufa realizes she cannot be Black Media and runs back to the castle. The girl heaves a sigh of relief and checks her bag to see if it's damaged. Inside the castle, Elise and Melida fight a raging battle. Melida is at a disadvantage and gets cornered by Elise. Elise says that she never wanted to draw attention and always wanted to be second best, making Melida accept her challenge. Elise prepares a powerful attack, saying Melida is too weak, but she is surprised when Melida instantly destroys her sword with a quick unsheathing. She defeats Elise and tells her that no matter what, she will always keep being stronger than her and being a big sister to her. The 2 girls reconcile but are approached by Nerva. Kufa is running back, realizing that only cadets are allowed to enter the castle. Nerva reveals herself as Black Media and is about to defeat the 2 girls. Suddenly, Kufa breaks in and easily defeats her, exposing her real identity and face. He gives the embarrassed Black Media a report to take back to the guild for her own safety. Later, Kara ends up winning the title of Luna. Mule is watching and tells Sriracha that she has gotten everyone's mana record. She says that the data will be useful to Sriracha Shixel's older brother, much to her confusion. Later in the academy, Melida tells Elise that she is forming her own unit and asks her to join. The overjoyed girl happily agrees. One night, Rose visits Kufa and tells him she learned something important. Later that night, Sriracha, Mule, Elise, and Melida go through a waterway in secret. They meet girls from both schools in a secret library, an old tradition of Luna Lumiere competitions. Mule decides to tell the 2 girls a scary story of 2 lovers. Apparently, a man had shifted to a city from the lower areas. Getting rejected by the upper class, the man would take out his frustrations on his wife, killing her one day by cutting out her heart. After the man realized his mistake, he took his wife's heart with him outside. He tripped and fell, and the heart asked him if he was all right. Overcome by guilt and realizing his wife's love, the man drowned himself to meet her in the afterlife. Afterward, the woman's heartless body came back to life. She became known as the Grey Witch, seeking out pretty girls and stabbing their hearts out from resentment. Elise and Melida are shocked by the story when suddenly the lights go out. A witch enters their room and everyone panics, running for safety. The 4 girls are running in a waterway when a sticky substance eerily similar to human entrails falls on them. They're about to make it out when they see the witch at the entrance. After distracting the witch, they finally escape. They meet Kufa and tell him about the dangerous situation. Kufa, with a huge bloodstain on his chest, tells the girls to help him search for his ripped-out heart, giving them the fright of their love. Later, the 4 girls are gathered in a room with Kufa where he explains that Rose had gotten wind of their little celebration party and decided to play a prank on them. The girls, realizing Kufa saw them all wet in the waterway, get angry, much to his embarrassment. He tucks them into bed and Melida holds his hand, making him prepare to stay up all night. Kufa wakes up Melida from a strange dream. They get ready for a school trip and leave. While walking with Melida, Kufa stealthily gets a certain drug from a hooded man. They get approached by Elise and Rose. Rose asks Kufa to marry him, shocking a jealous Melida. Apparently, her father is trying to marry her off, so she wants to use Kufa as an excuse to not marry. They soon meet a disapproving director and Marquis Blossom Prickett, Rose's father. He is a genetic engineer based in the town of Shangarda. The Marquis announces news of Rosti's marriage, but she claims Kufa is her lover. Blossom teases Kufa for seducing his daughter before remarking that he looks similar to a mass murderer from the past. Kufa is thrown off by the remark and stays behind as Melida worries for him. Later in class, Melida worries about the quiet Kufa. She decides to go catch up to him and encounters Professor Lacqua talking to her. She hears a strange voice in her head before a student screams. Everyone rushes to see a student unconscious, and Blossom comes in to investigate. He uses a tool to detect mana, and it indicates mana from a male. Kufa, the only man there, denies it was him. Later, the girls take a train to Shangarda. After getting off the train, the students visit a once barren town now green due to genetic enhancements. Melida hears the strange voice coming from some water again, but Kufa approaches her. Blossom comes over, warning her that it's a mystery zone she should not approach. Suddenly, they hear some noise. A guard holds down a woman's husband who seems to have gone feral. Blossom declares that his illness is beyond cure and the man is executed. The headmistress of the school tells Blossom that public executions are illegal, but he claims that he simply put the man out of his misery. Later, Kufa visits Blossom's church. Over there, Rose introduces him to some children Blossom had adopted. Back in Melida's room, Kufa finds her angry for giving Rose so much attention. He offers to go out with her, and the two go on a date in a peculiar cave. It is a mystery zone with a zero-gravity effect due to magnetization. The two dance together in the magical area before returning home. Melida apologizes to Kufa for being angry, saying she strangely wants him all to herself. Kufa tucks her into bed, wondering how to deal with her feelings for him. The next day, Rosti's siblings are found unconscious with their blood sucked as well. Everyone suspects Kufa and asks Melida where he is, but she reveals that she hasn't seen him since morning. Elise tries to talk to Melida, but she just wants to be left alone. Later, while walking outside, Lacqua talks to Melida, knowing that she isn't convinced her teacher is behind this. She tells her that in the past few years, more mystery zones have popped up in Shangarda. The girls decide to investigate one of these places, an abandoned castle. Inside the castle, Lacqua finds a secret staircase that leads down to a creepy cellar. The cellar contains corpses strewn around in cells, clearly experimented on. Melida spots the familiar man who got executed in front of them. Suddenly, she hears the strange voice again and panics, thinking another accident will happen. She runs out and goes back to the church, where she finds Elise unconscious and Rosti dead. It seemed that Elise had gone to look for Kufa with Rosti, but she had gotten attacked and killed. Melida takes Elise to rest in her room and wonders what she had wanted to tell her. She takes the girl's sword for moral support when Shenfa comes in and tells her to run. The town is after Melida due to suspecting Kufa, and Melida jumps out of the window and runs to the water spot. She remembers how Blossom stopped her from going there, breaks a path open and enters. Inside, she finds a cavern with research papers signed by Blossom. She finds out that Blossom is experimenting with turning humans into lycanthropes when she suddenly hears the strange voice again. The voice asks her who she is, and Melida introduces herself. She hears footsteps and is shocked to see Rosti with white hair and glowing eyes enter. Under the influence of the voice, Rosti attacks to drink Melida's blood, but Kufa comes in and protects her. He reminds her of her memory as a human and helps distract her. Rose feels upset and leaves. Meanwhile, Melida notices Kufa's strange white hair. Kufa turns around and pins Melida down. He tells her that he will erase all her memories of him. Melida says she doesn't want it. Kufa doesn't like the fear in her look. It's his personal insecurity. Melida gets up and tells him that no matter what, she will continue to believe in him and accept him for who he is. To prove her point, she kisses an embarrassed Kufa. He tells her that he is a half-vampire and reveals his story. 7 years ago, a spider lycanthrope called Dee used Blossom for an experiment. The failed experiment resulted in Blossom's wife surviving, but not without emitting an infectious miasma that turned people into half-lycanthropes. An unconscious Kufa woke up and infected a little Rose with his blood to help her survive. Nearby, the leader of Kufa's future guild fought the spider and defeated it with Kufa's help. Kufa told the man to keep his sister's secret and sealed her memories of him and her vampire lineage to prevent her from wanting to suck blood. Kufa makes Melida promise to never reveal his story, gently biting her neck to show her the consequences. He tells her that Rosti is the main concern as someone is trying to unlock her memories. Melida learns that Blossom arranged a marriage for Rosti to get more half-lycanthrope test subjects and tells her that there is a plan to defeat him, and Melida agrees. At the church, the wedding is almost complete when Melida barges in. Rosti seems to be under control as Melida taunts her about her lover. She tells her that Kufa is all hers and that she has even kissed him twice. This news upsets Rosti, who breaks free from the control and decides to fight with Melida over their lover. Melida sneakily releases an attack that hits Blossom, who is revealed to be the spider lycanthrope Naqua. Everyone at the ceremony learns that Naqua was responsible for all the attacks on the students. He runs away and Rosti tries to follow him. She remembers that he tried to make her harm Elise, but when she refused, he attacked her instead. Nakwa corners Rose and grabs her by the neck, about to kill her when Kufa comes in and helps Rose out. He turns her back into a vampire, and the two begin fighting the spider. Using the nearby zero-gravity zone, Kufa and Rose manage to defeat the spider. However, he splits into thousands of tiny spiders and flees. Unfortunately for him, he encounters the students and gets completely destroyed. Afterwards, Rose is excited to see Kufa again, remembering her memories. He knocks her down, about to erase her memories. Rose doesn't want it, but it's part of the pact Kufa made to let her live in public. She sighs and lets her big brother do it. Later, Kufa visits Blossom in a cave. He finds his wife in a state of partial lycanthropy. Remembering how Blossom took him in as a child, he gives her the drug he had, returning her back to normal. Blossom is overjoyed to have his wife back, and Kufa leaves after thanking his former adoptive father. Later, the students return home after everyone learns about the Nakwa incident. On the train, Rose talks to Kufa, telling him that she has a goal of joining the Crest Legion instead of staying with Blossom. She remembers someone from her childhood, saying they always stuck to her and wanted to become famous enough so that they would come find her themselves. This information makes Kufa smile. One day, Kufa notices that despite Melida's rapid growth, people still doubt her credentials. Later in class, the headmistress announces the Vibria Goat Librarian exam to the students. Vibria Goat is a massive labyrinth in the middle of Flandor filled with ancient knowledge. Students are tasked to dig up books for their certification. However, the trial is risky. Kufa reassures Melida and Elise that only senior students have to take the exam. The headmistress comes up and offers the two a chance based on their merit as cadets. Somewhere else at this time, a panel of nobility is discussing Melida's Mana report. They find out her class is samurai and decide to expose the House of Angel for this scandal and bring it down. Sriracha asks her elder brother if this really is the right thing to do, and he reassures her, saying it's better to save Melida from all the rumors she already faces. He then gives her an alternate fountain pen. Later at school, a masked man makes a scene in the hallway, claiming he is Melida's real father. At night, Kufa discusses the situation with Melida. She knows that the man is not her real father and people are just spreading rumors. Kufa decides to make her take the Vibria Goat exam to prove her talent as a noble. Melida wonders what would happen if she fails, and Kufa says he'll punish her. She then proposes that she get a reward for passing. On the day of the exam, Melida and Elise head down the labyrinth with the headmistress. She warns them that ghosts roam the library and will attack them. Suddenly, their elevator gets shattered by a plant and they get taken away. Outside of the labyrinth, Kufa is invited to a meeting with Melida's father. The Duke says that he is aware of the rumors surrounding her and wants her to drop out of school. Kufa defends her, saying she has immense potential and will surely reach greatness. The Duke notices his confidence, but suddenly they get bad news about the Grimface Guild attacking the library. In the Vibria Goat Library, Melida and Elise are alone together. They explore the floor, encountering and defeating some ghosts. The girls are exhausted when they suddenly get surrounded by even more ghosts. They get terrified but are saved by an attack. Mule and Sriracha drop down and reveal that they are also taking the exam. Outside the library, Kufa decides to head in and save the students. Inside, Melida and Elise form a team with Mule and Sriracha. Mule, descending from a family of Vibria Goat librarians, has a few maps and tools to help them navigate. They enter a room where their exam is set to start. The girls get tasked to sort and reshelve a huge pile of magical books while fighting off little book demons. Mule figures out the pattern to their arrangement and they manage to complete their task with teamwork. As proof of clearing the exam, the girls all get a certificate book with their details on it. Sriracha suddenly takes Melida's book from her, saying it's a trap as Mule corners her with a dark look. On another floor of the library, the headmistress fights with the senior students. They encounter two lycanthropes and defeat them, but are then approached by a necromancer called Crawdall. Crawdall has the girls surrounded by his puppets and gets the headmistress stabbed in the back. She gets prepared to sacrifice her life for her students when Kufa finally comes to the rescue. He defeats Crawdall and tends to the headmistress. Two students tearfully apologize for breaking their elevator on their father's orders. Suddenly, Crawdall comes back, having discarded his body. Back on the upper floor, Mule snatches the book away from Sriracha and finds out that Melida is indeed a samurai class. On the lower floor, Kufa fights Crawdall and his army but starts to get overwhelmed. He feels restricted in his human form, wondering if this is where it all ends when suddenly a few bandages bind Crawdall. The familiar lycanthrope, William Jins, appears and kills Crawdall, saying Kufa's death would have hurt his plans. The students notice he is half lycanthrope but thank him for saving their lives. Kufa's guild leader comes in and makes a deal with William to recruit him as a spy for research on reverting back to humans. The guild leader tells him that while the other gates are fine, the gate to a lower floor is managed by the Shixel family. Back to Melida. She gets taken away by a spell cast by Mule as Kufa hurries to find her. Remembering the mockery she had gotten in the past and how excited she was to see her instructor, Melida wakes up in a strange world called Walter's Illusory Tale. She finds herself in a trial with Sriracha's older brother as the judge and several nobles in the audience. He reveals the charge against her, pretending to be a noble from the Angel House and deceiving all of Flandor for her entire life. The nobles hurl insults at her for being a useless imposter, accusing her mother of cheating on her father. Melida gets angry and defends her mother. She claims that her mother would never cheat and that her mana awakening late is no proof of an affair. Melida declares that she will join the Crest Legion and achieve status worthy of a noble, and the judge decides to make her prove it. He pits her up against a higher class, the Dragoon class Sriracha, to prove her strength as a noble woman. Nearby, Elise begins a fight with Mule, wanting to stand behind her sister. Sriracha sighs, not wanting to fight but is forced to do it. She flies up and unleashes a barrage of attacks on Melida. The watching nobles find that Sriracha is dominating, but her brother knows better. He is shocked by Melida's training as she convincingly defeats her opponent. Seeing Melida's talent, the nobles realize that Melida's late awakening must have just been bad luck and that they were committing treason by doubting her identity. Suddenly, Sriracha's pen drops out and a portal opens up to erase the events of the dream world. The nobles escape through a gate, and Melida finds out Othello is one of them. She forgives her and lets her go. Before the girls can leave, though, the door closes and Melida's father shows up. He begins attacking the girls, aiming to kill them, but Kufa shows up and protects them. Melida decides to fight with him and they end up defeating the man. To make amends for her actions, Mule destroys the book containing Melida's records, bringing a smile to Sriracha's face. Outside, the defeated man wakes up from a painful experience in the dream. Sriracha's big brother takes his life after using him, deciding to cover the events up. Later, Serge Shixel, Sriracha's older brother, launches an investigation into the event, finding out that the attack was instigated by a Crest Legion member. To deal with the aftermath, the commander of the Legion, Duke Felgus, decides to spend some time with his daughter. He tells her that one of her distant relatives was indeed of the samurai class, comforting her and saying she looks just like her mother. Melida, relieved, begins crying to the Duke's surprise, who leaves her in Kufa's hands. Afterward, Kufa asks Melida for her reward for passing, and she reveals that she wants him to see the moment the world acknowledges her. She declares that she wants to risk her life for him instead of just entrusting him with it, surprising him. Kufa, eyes wide open, takes her hand and kisses it, proud that she is indeed his little lady as the show comes to an end. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.